Day one of Illinois General Assembly fall veto session in the books, and day two beginning today. Even just right now, there's a House committee hearing about the transit fiscal cliff and just exactly what that's going to look like. So with the center square with you each and every weekday morning, I'm Greg Bishop. This is Illinois in Focus Daily. We've got the center square's Jim Talamonte on that story right now because, well, they're in session. So you've got a committee hearing going on. We'll talk about that tomorrow morning. But we got plenty from yesterday to tackle, including stuff happening on the House floor yesterday when it comes to politics. But you've also got questions about oversight of state agencies and how they operate, and including Illinois Department of Prisons, the Department of Corrections, scanning prisoner mail now, and legislators haggling with the department about the rulemaking process. So we've got all that to get to, but we've also got to get to the latest out of the Department of Homeland Security saying that there have been bounties placed on federal agents' heads by cartels in Mexico focused on Chicago. So we'll tackle that and get some of the back and forth from the past couple of days here between Governor J.B. Pritzker and President Donald Trump. So that's what we're going to be tackling today before I got to get out of here and go back to the State House to cover fall veto session. So it's right here with Illinois in Focus Daily. Don't forget to get the headlines in your inbox. Go to thecentersquare.com. Sign up for that newsletter. It's free. But again, you can wake up with us each and every weekday morning here with Illinois in Focus Daily and get the podcast where you get podcasts.
Katie, 50% of the presidents have used the insurrection because they don't want to go through this stuff where somebody said there's no crime and 4,000 people got shot.
Unfortunately, the abuses of ICE and of CBP continue, and we're going to do everything that we can, again, to protect our residents, but also to get the courts to step in and stop them from abusing just everyday people, that they are firing gas pellets and rubber bullets.
Some of the back and forth over the past few days here about public safety in and around Chicago when it comes to immigration enforcement. Good morning, Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. On this October 15th, it is Wednesday, and you heard President Donald Trump there talk about how he doesn't want to have to use the Insurrection Act. Sounds like he wants some cooperation with local authorities when it comes to public safety issues, and talking about how Chicago's got a problem with the total number of homicides that happen in that city every year. And you got the guard being deployed, but then being blocked by the courts. So that case is still pending, and how that plays out, we'll be watching. But clearly a lot of stuff going on here, especially as the Department of Homeland Security has put this out yesterday. Bounties originating from Mexico offered to shoot ICE and CBP officers in Chicago. So let's go through this a bit, because this is just out from the Department of Homeland Security. They say DHS has obtained credible intelligence indicating that Mexican cartels and criminals in coordination with domestic extremist groups have placed targeted bounties on U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and U.S. Customs and Border Protection personnel. These criminals networks have issued explicit instructions to U.S.-based sympathetics, including street gangs in Chicago, to monitor, harass, and assassinate federal agents. Specific details from ongoing investigations investigations include spotter networks in neighborhoods like Chicago's Pilsen and Little Village. Gang members affiliated with groups such as the Latin Kings have deployed spotters on rooftops equipped with firearms and radio communications. These individuals track ICE and CBP movements in real time, relaying coordinates. The surveillance has enabled ambushes and disruptions. Still getting my coffee this morning, everybody. Good morning. Routine enforcement actions, including recent raids under Operation Midway Blitz. So the bounties range from $2,000 for gathering intelligence, $5,000 to $10,000 for kidnapping, and up to $50,000 for assassinating high-ranking officials. Clearly, this coming from DHS. They say that Chicago and Portland Antifa groups have provided logistical support, such as pre-staged protest supplies, doxing of agents' identities, and on-the-ground interference to shield cartel-linked individuals from deportation. Goes on from there with a statement from Kristi Noem, and then it says DHS will not be deterred by these threats and calls on sanctuary state and local leaders to cease policies that embolden criminals. The public is urged to report suspicious activities such as rooftop surveillance or organized protest blocking federal operations to their hotline. So this is, again, what DHS says they're having to contend with as you've got the ongoing back and forth continuing. Yesterday, you had the governor post this on X. He said, "I'm not afraid. Come and get me, Donald. I will stand up for the law and the Constitution. That's what we do in the state of Illinois." Then you have the Department of Homeland Security sharing a message that Pritzker had recently on a TV station in Chicago, saying Governor J.B. Pritzker threatening to prosecute law enforcement for enforcing the law and arresting murderers, pedophiles, rapists, and drug traffickers and gang members is disgusting, DHS said on X. It's no wonder Chicago's murder rate's 330% higher than the national average under J.B. Pritzker. His conduct's directly contributing to domestic terrorist attacking brave law enforcement. He's going to get someone killed with this trash. Again, official words there from DHS. Here's what the governor had to say on a local Fox affiliate in Chicago.
The tables will turn someday. These people should recognize that maybe they're not going to get prosecuted today, although we're looking at doing that, but they may get prosecuted after the Trump administration for the things that they did because the statute of limitations won't have run.
So you've got the governor talking about the statute of limitations, holding people accountable. Then you have, again, the DHS highlighting the criminal network, they say, is looking to have bounties on the heads of federal officials. You've got the Department of Homeland Security Assistant Director talking to Fox News about foreign criminal networks that we spelled out there in that news release. And here's some of what she had to say.
It's incredibly disturbing, Sandra. Homeland Security investigations, the FBI, our interagency intelligence partners are really all over this. What we're seeing, as you mentioned, is this tiered system, this coordinated and highly organized waging of war against our law enforcement and a terror campaign against them. We're seeing that they're offering $2,000 for intelligence about our ICE law enforcement agents including their family, to dox them, $5,000 to kidnap an ICE law enforcement agent, and then even more money to kill them. And we've talked a lot about on this program and on other programs on this network about these ICE apps to locate ICE and CBP agents. And it's not just obstruction of justice that we've been seeing with that. We're also seeing this. They're now handing intelligence over to these cartels, these criminal rings, to go after our law enforcement, harass them, dox them, kidnap them, and God forbid, kill them, Sandra. It's very disturbing.
So you've got the ongoing concerns for the safety of federal officials. And the president has said that he wants to get the National Guard involved to help with public safety because these sanctuary states aren't cooperating with local law enforcement and causing public safety to be harmed. But later in the day, you have Governor J.B. Pritzker sharing this on X. Greg Bavino, Kristi Noem, and DHS need to answer for their unchecked attacks on Chicago residents. ICE is out of control danger of our peaceful communities. The images of the Sun-Times speak for themselves, and you can see some of the images that he shared from the Sun-Times. And there was video yesterday of agents deploying using some kind of chemical agents on the streets to break up a gathering group. And the governor pointing that out as well, saying ICE is recklessly throwing tear gas into our neighborhoods and busy streets, including near children in schools and CPD officers. The Trump administration must stop their deployments of dangerous chemical weapons into the air of peaceful American communities. If you go back to yesterday, we were talking about Broadview and how in Broadview you've got the fence around the facility that was part of a court case, and apparently the fence is coming down at some point, but or is coming down in the process of, but that was put up to protect the perimeter of the federal agency's facility. And you got clashes with protesters, and Broadview having to put in the limitations of time for protests last week. And then this week, after 15 people were arrested over the weekend of clashing with law enforcement, and wasn't necessarily federal law enforcement. You had Illinois State Police and local police there as well, making sure people weren't in the roadway. You had Broadview say that the protesters caused chaos, and they needed to put in more restrictions. So that's what happened earlier this week. And here we are Wednesday with the governor having previously said, peacefully protest. But you got people not peacefully protesting getting arrested. And now you've got people approaching federal officials when they're conducting official federal law enforcement on immigration. And you can see how this boiling cauldron could spill over, and appears to be spilling over in some circumstances here. But final thing here, let's see. We've got, of course, the ongoing questions about the National Guard and how that's going to be used. But you have Governor J.B. Pritzker and Donald Trump obviously going back and forth. The president on Air Force One on his way back from that Middle East Peace Summit. He took questions from members of the media, and one in particular was about the use of the National Guard, about Illinois, and Governor Pritzker yesterday seeming to react to the increased chaotic protests, and what he says was ICE being an overreach and abusive and damaging to the safety of the communities in Illinois, according to the governor.
I think he should beg for help, because he's running a bad operation, and he's letting people be killed in his city because he doesn't want in Chicago. And I love Chicago. Chicago can be a great city again, and very quickly. I would have Chicago cleaned out, the criminals removed, we would remove them.
Well, peaceful protest I encourage. I think that's a good idea, and it sends a message to people all across the country, all across the state of Illinois, and most especially to the federal government, that we don't want troops on the ground, and we don't want ICE officials or CBP abusing people on the streets of Chicago or any of our suburbs, or frankly anywhere in Illinois or the country. So we're going to have, I think, a major protest on Saturday called the No Kings Rally. I think we'll see a whole lot of people on the streets for that. Peaceful protest is a good thing. It's something we protect in the Constitution, and I protect people.
But when you mentioned insurrection, I mean, you were the one that mentioned, one of you mentioned Insurrection Act. I could do that, and many presidents have.
Do you have an update on
50%, Katie, 50% of the presidents have used the insurrection because they don't want to go through this stuff where somebody said there's no crime and 4,000 people got shot.
Unfortunately.
So is the president finding some justification for using the Insurrection Act when DHS is putting out statements saying that they've got intelligence, the cartels are putting bounties on federal agents' heads in Chicago? How is this going to continue? We'll be watching it closely. The governor does have another event today, later on this morning, and of course, plenty of stuff going on at the Illinois State House as well. It's right here with Illinois in Focus Daily. Go to thecentersquare.com, get the newsletter, and wake up with us each and every weekday morning, live with Illinois in Focus Daily.
There's not a different mechanism or motivation besides yet another thing we have to do. I greatly appreciate your brutal honesty with that. Thank you very much. I've always felt that you were very forthcoming and honest on those realities of how a state government is done.
Some of the Legislative Audit Commission hearing yesterday morning at the Illinois State House as fall veto session is back in session. Day 2 today after day 1. Not a lot happening. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. And go to thecentersquare.com. It's where I'm the editor with the team from Illinois. We've got Jim Talamonte up in Chicago. He is monitoring a House committee hearing about the transit fiscal cliff, something that we anticipate they could possibly address in the 6 days they have for fall veto session, and those 6 days underway now. We're in day 2. All indication is that not a ton is going to advance this week. There's even some rumblings, and again, these are rumors, and it happens every time we get on the ground at the Capitol. Somebody says, I hear they're canceling. Somebody with knowledge told me Thursday, at least for one chamber, will be a day that, what was the terminology? If activities are needed or something to that effect. So it was like a roundabout way of saying, yeah, they could cancel. So not sure what's going to happen Thursday, but here we are today. We've got tons going on. Yesterday, the Legislative Audit Commission met. They had 3 audits they were reviewing. One being the Central Management Services. And even though this wasn't necessarily a clear audit, State Senator Chapin Rose had an issue.
And so if you're in SIP, you've been waiting 18 to 24 months or longer to get your reimbursements. And I really honestly think we need to figure out something that takes account of reality. In fact, if I recall correctly, our esteemed governor had an entire point in his budget address last year about ghost networks, and yet ghost networks popped up in both the Delta Dental offerings in my world, and also, quite frankly, popped up again in the primary health care insurance for state and university employees in my world when Health Alliance dropped out, and we had to deal with that, and we're still dealing with that with your office, and I do appreciate the help your office has given in dealing with that. But, this whole ghost network thing is a nightmare.
So this ghost network idea with CMS managing the health insurance plans for state employees, you've got tens of thousands of state employees. If they don't have a plan in network, that's going to cost them more. And you've got all these questions about in-network, out-of-network, ghost networks. So CMS being involved in that, obviously Rose brought that up during the Legislative Audit Commission. And so the Legislative Audit Commission is a bipartisan group. It's got equal number of Republicans, equal number of Democrats, and they can order audits, specific audits. If you recall, we had that audit come out about how much the state was spending for non-citizen health care subsidies. So that was a specific audit that the Audit Commission ordered. You've got their ability to do these oversight of regular audits, and CMS being one of those, being one of the 3 audits that they reviewed yesterday. One of the other things with CMS, and this has been a topic before in the past, just to kind of show how Illinois operates, and we've got 370 plus boards and commissions. And these are different types of boards and commissions dealing with, public safety issues or juvenile justice or, some tax review type of board or commission or an arts commission. So we've got 370 of these. A lot of them have vacancies on the boards. These are gubernatorially appointed board members. And there's other members that can be appointed as, just depends on how the commission was set up by law. But the Central Management Services in the state of Illinois manages all of their kind of operations, but they get dinged in these audits because these boards have vacancies, and there's concerns about zombie boards, right? They're not really doing anything, even though they've got a line item and their members are appointed and such. State Representative Amy Ellick agreed there's a conundrum there with Central Management Services, who does not have any authority to appoint people to boards, getting dinged in an audit because of, not having members appointed to the boards.
So the governor's office is getting an audit finding for failure to appoint, or the House Minorities Leader. I mean, is that common to have those?
It is common.
So, okay. So again, you're sort of getting dinged on something that you don't have any control.
Interesting. And that's, again, just a review of state government, how it operates. Another issue that CMS had was certain types of employee performance reviews not being completed in a timely manner. And the director of DHS, Raven Devon, talking with State Representative Amy Ellick, said that there's not really any incentive to have these reports done, even though they make it a priority, and they're not even sure what they do with these reports.
At every level, we're trying to make sure that it is at the focal point of HR and also our managers. But the loud part unsaid is they're not tied to anything. So there's not a different mechanism or motivation besides yet another thing we have to do.
Again, this is government telling government what to do, which can lead to multiple steps and barriers and make things maybe less efficient. So you've got kind of a recognition of that in that statement. And Amy Ellick, state representative, Republican from Alton, said that she appreciated the candor.
I greatly appreciate your brutal honesty with that. Thank you very much. I've always felt that you were very forthcoming and honest on those realities of how state government is done.
Again, we're looking at the Legislative Audit Commission, which met yesterday morning on the first day of fall veto session. So that was one bipartisan commission that meets. They meet every month, and they look at audits because the Auditor General for the state of Illinois is pretty busy auditing Illinois. And if you're ever interested in going and reading those audits, I would strongly encourage you to go to the Illinois Auditor General's website. Just type in Illinois Auditor General, and you'll be able to find that. It's some dense reading, but you'll get a good insight on how the state government operates or doesn't operate properly. So another bipartisan committee met yesterday, and they meet monthly. It's the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules, JCAR. They look at the administration's rulemaking process. So when you have a law that's passed, it says, by rulemaking, got to do X, Y, and Z. The agency goes and crafts those rules, comes back to JCAR and says, here's the rules. JCAR essentially says, well, all right, let's go. So the bipartisan committee provides some oversight. Well, there's also the emergency rulemaking process that agencies can use, and the Illinois Department of Corrections used an emergency rule to start scanning prisoner mail. And the effort's been talked about for years in the state of Illinois, with concerns of illicit substances being laced on paper, and that paper getting into the hands of inmates, and those inmates either smoking it or whatever, and getting inebriated. And then you get to the possible negative health impacts on prison guards. So there's been concern about this for a long time, and there was even a push last year to have the Department of Corrections implement prison mail scanning so that inmates get mail on a tablet instead of the physical paper. That way it doesn't get into and leak into the prison system. So the rules for that in place through emergency, but JCAR, State Representative Curtis Tarver, he's been concerned about the timing of all of this and maybe the lack of communication as well.
It led me to believe that maybe we were prioritizing the games and things that generate revenue as opposed to scanning the mail, which I understand you all had an MOU to do some time ago. So that is a long-winded way of saying, like, what is going on with the tablets generally? Was it a prioritization of games and apps as opposed to scanning?
The Illinois Department of Corrections Director, LaToya Hughes, said no. They did not prioritize the apps to have games.
I've tried to explain it in prior meetings, similar to, the plane is being built as it's flown. We are continually building items onto that tablet so that it has all of the functionality that we need, but games were certainly not prioritized.
So we heard last week, or last month rather, at the last JCAR meeting, because again they meet monthly, this issue was on the docket, and you had officials from IDOC, the Department of Corrections, questioned about the app company and how they chose that app company, that tablet company, and is the tablet company getting money? How are they paid? Are they getting money from in-app purchases that inmates make? Those types of things. So moving on, you've got State Representative Stephen Reich also with concerns about the timing and communication of all of this.
This isn't going to get done by our December JCAR meeting, because there's a whole lot of stuff. There's a whole lot of things that have to be done between now and then that don't appear to be getting done. The fact that you waited until September 29th to start scanning irrespective of whether there was a problem with the app or not, tells me that there's a certain amount of unseriousness going on here.
So Reich worried about whether or not the implementation of this going correctly with the important oversight and accountability that there should be. And is it genuine that they're moving forward in this fashion? State Representative Ryan Spain also saying the timing of all of this and the communication needs to be better.
We received some answers to questions from our September meeting on Friday last week. We have to accelerate and improve the collaborative process between the Department of Corrections and this committee. As I mentioned, and we've discussed, we have a timeliness problem here. And I have to say, it's a timeliness issue really created by the department. When you file emergency rules one day after the August JCAR meeting, and then wait 45 days before you begin the implementation of the subject for which the emergency rules were filed, we have now created a problem for the beginning of the year 2026 on where we go next.
Well, where do we go next for the oversight of state government? Well, monthly bipartisan oversight hearings, Legislative Audit Commission, the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules, and these are two bipartisan committees that provide oversight of the Pritzker administration and other state agencies, how they spend, and we'll continue to track all of that for you here with Illinois in Focus Daily. Go to thecentersquare.com, get the headlines in your inbox each and every weekday morning. Again, at thecentersquare.com. One last segment coming up, guys. Stick around. Politics on the Illinois House floor, something that you expect to happen whenever legislators come back to an official setting following being off for weeks and weeks and weeks. It's fall veto session time, and what we're expecting to have happen is a whole bunch of conversation about energy policy, about battery storage, about the cost of energy, and what about the transit fiscal cliff, and what about the vetoes that the governor has? Are there going to be any attempts to override some vetoes? I think there were, one full veto and a mandatory veto. So are they getting any of that done? Well, day one was yesterday. Day two's today. Day three could be tomorrow, but I'm hearing the rumor, and again, it's just a rumor. It happens every time we get on the floor of the Capitol. They could cancel. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, be with us tomorrow as review what happens today here with Illinois in Focus Daily. So get to the website. You'll get the headlines in your inbox, but you can wake up with us here for Illinois in Focus Daily. Yesterday, the Illinois House convened, and no actual votes taken on substantive legislation, but when they get together, they have points of personal privilege, where members can raise their hand, stand up, and deliver a speech or welcome their constituents or introduce their page. Yesterday, they said bye-bye to State Representative Tara Costa-Howard. She has been appointed a judge, I believe, in DuPage County, and she's no longer going to be a state representative. So with that happening, you had a bunch of people sending off Tara Costa-Howard. And it's interesting, Tara Costa-Howard came under a lot of heat, if you remember, during spring session with the Homeschool Act. She pushed for that, had the largest amount of opposition to it, and ultimately she pulled the plug. But that, again, put a lot of heat on her, but now she's going to be a judge. So they talked about that, but others got up to talk about recognizing people who've recently lost their lives, like State Representative Adam Niemer taking a point of personal privilege.
I rise today to honor an extraordinary man of faith, honor, and patriotism. Today is Illinois native Charlie Kirk's birthday. He would have been 32 years old today. Tragically, Charlie was killed on September 10th because of his political beliefs. Charlie believed in the free exchange of ideas. He went into college campuses to discuss the issues of the day, and he always allowed those who disagreed with him to come to the front of the line and ask their questions first. He responded to their questions with integrity and sincerity. The willingness to go into hostile territory and take any question on any subject is rare in this day and age. But this was who Charlie was. And tragically, he was killed for it. Charlie Kirk was a bold and courageous leader who loved God, loved his family, and loved his country. When asked what he wanted to be remembered for, he simply said, courage and faith. He was a remarkable man whose legacy will live on in the hearts and minds of the millions of people he influenced in his short life. When asked why Charlie was killed, Elon Musk said, he was killed because his words made a difference.
Nienberg went on to talk about a resolution he has to further honor Charlie Kirk. And again, yesterday, October 14th, Charlie Kirk's birthday. So Nienberg makes his presentation, talks more about Kirk's impact on politics and free speech, and talks about Kirk's family. All of this happening just an hour before President Donald Trump held a ceremony at the White House Rose Garden honoring Charlie Kirk and giving him a posthumous honor, a medal from the White House. So Charlie Kirk's birthday yesterday. But after Adam Nienberg made that presentation on the House floor, State Representative LaShawn Ford, a Democrat from Chicago, got up to make a point of personal privilege.
I rise today to share some thoughts that I think may surprise some people in this chamber, but they need to be said. I want this chamber to pause today to recognize the life of a man who was taken from us. Today would have been his birthday. He was a father of 3, and those children will never see him again. When he died, some people condemned efforts to memorialize him. They dismissed his value. They demonized him. Those who chose to speak ill of the dead were not castigated. In fact, in many circles, they were celebrated. But I want this chamber to stand for what is right. So today, on his birthday, I want to pause to recognize the life of George Floyd.
Now, watching that live yesterday, when Ford got up, he started talking. This is right after Nienberg made his presentation about Charlie Kirk, honoring him on October 14th, Charlie Kirk's birthday. And I thought Ford was going to also take a moment to talk about that, but he went on and said it was George Floyd's birthday as well, and that is, I checked that out, and kind of fascinating to see that little bit of political dynamic there on the House floor in Illinois. Totally civil, but each individual legislator there seemed to make their point. But State Representative C.D. Davidsmeyer got up and urged for more political civility in the face of political violence.
Resolution specifically mentions assassination attempts against Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. It mentions the attack on Paul Pelosi. It mentions the assassination attempt of Donald Trump. It mentions the attack on United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. It mentions the attack on Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. It mentions the Israeli embassy staff that were murdered. It mentions the Speaker of the Minnesota House and the Minnesota State Senator who was shot. It mentions United States Representative from Ohio, Max Miller, and his family who were victims. It mentions recent attacks on ICE that not members of law enforcement, but individuals were shot. It mentions Charlie Kirk being shot. And it also mentions our own governor, J.B. Pritzker, and threats against him and his family. And I thought this was a great way for us to say, it doesn't matter who the attack is on, it is all wrong.
So C.D. Davidsmeyer has that resolution, hoping that to get people on board to pass that. And, they do this from time to time. It's like an official announcement, an official proclamation from the House. Further discussion was had, people sharing their thoughts, welcoming constituents, talking about their page of the day, and so on. But you have State Representative Bob Morgan getting up, and this is a Democrat from Deerfield, seeming to highlight a moment of true bipartisan support for something that President Donald Trump did, and that is the Middle East peace deal, and in particular, getting 20 hostages freed by Hamas.
But of course, I don't have to explain to this body that nothing in the Middle East is simple. And it didn't happen that day or that week. And in fact, it's been several long years. But at this point, thankfully, we've reached a point where peace is in sight. And after so many disappointments and so much diminished hope, again, we can breathe. Despite my personal vehement opposition to some of the domestic policies of the current administration, I'd be remiss if I didn't credit not just former President Biden, but also President Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio for their international leadership and diplomacy in making this happen and for bringing the hostages home.
So Morgan praising the Trump administration for their efforts in international peace and bringing hostages home. House Minority Leader Tony McCombie, a Republican from Savannah, recognizing that moment of true bipartisan support for supporting something that President Donald Trump did.
And I just want to say thank you for your kindness and knowledge while many of us visit Israel and understand or try to understand the pain and tragedy and destruction. I think I can say, I know I can say, the House Republicans celebrate this. Also credit the international delegation and President Trump. But more importantly, I think it's important for us as a body to remember how dangerous political hate can be. It's unacceptable. We all condemn it.
So that was day one, essentially, of the Illinois General Assembly. A news conference held about energy issues. We've talked a lot about that. We'll hear a lot more about it. What are they going to do today? Maybe a bunch more news conferences. Maybe they'll talk about tax increases. You got the transit cliff being discussed in a House committee hearing right now as we speak here live to tape with Illinois in Focus Daily. So tons to tackle. So I hope you wake up with us tomorrow morning to see what happens on day 2 of Illinois fall veto session. You're paying for it as an Illinois taxpayer, and we've got everything you need to know to start your day. It's right here with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Get the headlines in your inbox. Go to thecentersquare.com, click on newsletter, and just fill it out, and you'll get those headlines. But also wake up with us here for more Illinois in Focus Daily with the Center Square. All right, so all I got for you guys this morning. I got to get out of here and head back to the Capitol. Stuff's already going on, so we'll be back at it tomorrow here with Illinois in Focus Daily. I really do appreciate you guys taking part in the chat, keeping it civil, talking about the issues, just some of those here in the last few moments. Oscar, Mike, you got Dave Laporta, Brett, Keith, Doobie, Hugo, John, WBW, Gary. Thumbs up, everybody. And why not just put a thumbs up in the chat real quick. Give me a little boost to get to the Capitol and cover today's activities. So we'll be back at it tomorrow. See you then. All right, it's Illinois in Focus Daily with the center square.